Hey, Greg.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm Greg Thompson. I'm the Vice President of the Sea Pines Property Owners Association, and I'll be standing in for Paula. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Jonathan, do we have a quorum?
Yes, we have a quorum.
Great, thank you. Can you
Greg, I'd like to make a motion to
Thank you.
the
I
minutes
got stuck
from our
on motion.
previous
Okay. Can you make a motion to approve the minutes?
Yeah, the previous meeting was March 28th. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'll second.
All right,
All those in favor, raise your hand.
I think we got it. Great. Thank
All
you.
right.
I would like to make a few remarks as we get started here. First of all, I'd like to thank everyone again for joining us either live on Zoom or by viewing our meeting on YouTube. As I mentioned earlier, I'm leading the meeting today in Paula's absence. I can report she's doing well, and we expect her to be back in her role next month. We have good news to report regarding our efforts to gather enough signatures to request the resort to call a referendum to allow electronic voting and signatures on any future referendum or other CSA matter. The option to use paper ballots will still be available. As I stated earlier, there are no other changes to the covenants included or requested in this petition. We're very close to having the required number of property owner signatures. It's interesting to note we're making history. This is the first time homeowners will petition the resort to run a referendum on their behalf. And I can't miss the opportunity to recognize the leadership and totally professional work of Keith Burns, our secretary, for being absolutely sure we can verify and track the petition's signatures and the process used to collect them. Lee Stevens will provide some more details as part of his report today. It's also important to recognize and acknowledge the support and volunteer help provided by the neighborhood POAs. Margie Tomczak and her fellow PSA presidents have supported this effort from the beginning and have been instrumental in collecting signatures. Huge thanks to all of you. We also had our struggles this year with membership and dues. We're still maturing as a standalone organization, and many of you have experienced problems with dues, billing, and collection. We've identified database management as a top priority for the remainder of this year. We apologize for any inconvenience we may have caused. In the meantime, if you're a paid member, we thank you for your support and trust. If you have not joined our organization or paid the 2023 dues, please act. Many important community initiatives have started or are propelled forward by the Sea Pines Property Owners Association. Some examples are the leaf blower policy, LUM rules, now titled Community Standards, and electronic voting. We can't forget the newsletter that keeps you informed. Thanks for your support and trust, and we see a bright future ahead. Now let's hear from John on the financial status.
All right. Thank you, Greg. Okay, so in your packet, we have the Q1 financial report, and that's from January 1st through the end of March. And I'll start with the balance sheet. We have $443,000 in total assets. And so for those of you that don't know, we have an investment grade ladder. So we have high quality investments with a short-term maturity around 3 to 5 years. So of that $443,000, we have about $222,000 in bonds and fixed income, $130,000 in cash, and then about $86,000 in our operating account. So we're in a good position, but we want to have a higher reserve. So our goal is to continue to generate excess revenue and less expenses so we can contribute to the reserve. So we can use that for unforeseen instances such as like legal opinions or any lawsuits that we need to defend property owners from. So I'll hop over to the budget variance sheet. Looking at our income, we have about $89,000 from the first quarter. Most of this is obviously from membership dues. And as Greg touched on, we're hoping to increase this as the year moves forward. Looking at our expenses, I'd say our top three expenses are, of course, our management fee, that's IMC, and the great job that they do. Communication services, most of that's printing, that's from the membership drive. And of course, our insurance for the board. So our total expenses came in at about $27,000, which is about $4,000 under budget. So that left us with excess revenue of $62,000 this quarter, which is a good thing. Great, thanks.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it. Lisa, do you want to do a report for the management of the organization?
I'll go ahead and do it for Lisa. As of this morning, we have 2,748 paid members. Since the last meeting in March, we have received about 350 phone calls. A lot of those, as Greg mentioned, were regarding billings. And as Greg mentioned, we're going through the database to attempt to clean that up so that we don't have any discrepancies going forward. We've had about 400 emails since the last meeting. Those included questions for the annual meeting, questions about the petition, referendum, questions about dues, questions that were geared towards CSA. So it's been a mixture of a lot of things that we've been fielding. That's all I've got for you today.
Thank you very much, Kathleen. It's been a busy in terms of phone calls. Thank you for taking care of that. All right, let's move to the updates. Lee, can you tell us what's going on at the ARB?
Yeah, the ARB continues to be very active. A couple things to point out is that total lots remaining is now at 49. At the beginning of last year, it was at 64. So property is continuing to be purchased in Sea Pines and new homes being built. In addition to that, we're seeing a significant increase in teardowns. So we've reached the point that a lot of other, I think, oceanfront areas have reached where older homes are being purchased and torn down to build something modern and also that meets flood standards. The other thing I want to point out is how active it's been so far this year. On the second part of the report, you'll notice that year to date, there's been 337 minor additions and alterations in addition to 79 just in the month of May. And there have been 65 year to date and 17 in May, major additions and alterations. So our weekly, for those of you that don't know, the ARB meets every Tuesday at 1 o'clock. And our meetings tend to be getting longer as the agenda gets longer with more and more people updating their properties, which is a good thing. So that's my report.
Great. Nice to see investment continue in Sea Pines.
Absolutely.
Lori, can you update us on communications, please?
I am just working on the speaker series that starts in September and getting a smashing lineup put together for that. And working on the newsletter, which we hope to publish yet this June.
Great. Thank you for all that you do. Carrie, can you update us on anything you're doing on the website?
Can you hear me, Greg?
Yes, got you now.
So I've been having technical difficulties with it. So I apologize for that. The thing that I focused now
Carrie,
with regard to the
you're
website.
breaking up a little. You're breaking up a little bit.
I think with the storm, I'm having some internet issues here, so I apologize. I have gotten kicked off a couple times. So I'm going to try and log on back in.
Okay, if you want to do that, we'll come back to you. Do you want to talk about covenant modernization and the work on the petition?
I will. As Greg, as you mentioned earlier, this is the first time that a petition has been brought forward to amend the covenants of Sea Pines. And the first time that, as you said, historically, that the amendment, that amending the bylaws will be done by a petition rather than being addressed directly by the resort. And Keith Burns, who's our secretary, has been the kind of the gatekeeper of the petitions that have been out there, and also the person that checks all the signatures that we've collected to make sure that we don't have multiples from the same household and that every signature represents somebody who is an owner. So far there have been 29 separate referendum petitions that have been returned to Keith for verification. This has resulted in 501 validated signatures out of a total of 535 that were gathered. So it's a very high rate of acceptance of the signatures that we've received. We've reached 87% of our goal, which is to get to 575 validated signatures. And currently the validation rate is just over 93%. Also, Keith had done a calculation by reviewing a complete list of all Sea Pines property owners to understand how many signatures we needed to reach a minimum of 10% of our owners, which is what the covenants require for a petition to bring forward for covenant reform. And that number, after reviewing people that own duplicate properties or multiple properties, that number is 527. So that you can see as of June 7th, we're at 501. So probably with the petitions that are out right now that Keith has not seen, I think we're all very confident that we're going to reach that 527 number if we haven't already. So with that, I'd like to make a motion that Keith's report, which he submitted electronically since he's out of the country, that be made part of the minutes of today's meeting.
You have a motion?
It was a motion.
I'm sorry.
Second.
All in favor? Thank you. All in favor? All right, I think we got it. Thank you, Lee. It was, I know all of us have worked at getting signatures, and I just speak for myself. It was a very pleasant process to meet people and talk with them. And I was kind of overwhelmed by the positive feedback and support that we got. So it's a good project, and I think it will make a difference for the community going forward.
Greg, if I
Carrie,
could just
are
mention
you
one other thing.
Oh yeah, sorry, Lee.
And that's the communication out to the owners was very well done. I can tell you, when I attended an event to collect signatures, in some cases I would start to tell people what the petition was for, and they said, nope, already heard about it. Where's the petition? I'll sign it. So in a lot of cases, I think of the different locations that I was at, I think I had 2 people say they needed more information before they were willing to sign, and everybody else already knew what it was about and was happy to put their signature on the paper.
Yeah, I had the same experience. It was a lot of fun. Okay, Carrie, are you back online with us?
I hope you can hear me.
And we still got a little like echo. I don't know. Are you close to the speaker or your microphone or?
It's breaking up.
Yeah. Doesn't look like it's going to work.
I think I
Would you-
have a better connection because everybody.
Yeah, it's like we're getting like every other word, unfortunately. I can see you fine, but the audio is not great. Okay. Okay, let's try again in a few minutes and
Can
we'll
you hear me?
it's not working.
It's clearly a slow internet or
Yeah.
response.
Yeah. Okay. I'll just move ahead and with regard to legal, there's no change in any of the legal matters we are engaged with, no real update there. And the land use management report I'll do now, and we'll come back to Carrie. The community standards is a that is a committee that it's label, it's a committee name that now has been substituted for the old land use management name, and it's important that that we kind of move away from land use management. And it's hard for me to stop saying land use management and say community standards, but that is the name of the committee going forward. The committee was first a Sea Pines property owners effort, formerly under the auspices of the old ASPO title. And then it became a joint committee with CSA, and now it's fully a CSA committee. The rules, now standards, have been in effect for nearly 2 years, and the CSA board asked that a review of the standards be conducted and modified where our experience warrants change. That review is underway now, and the committee expects to complete its work by the end of the year. Implementation of the standards has been successful, with people responding quickly to remedy deficiencies. And again, I think it's worked really, really well. Initially, there was one land use monitor, now community standards monitor, and we now have a second monitor hired, plus a seasonal person for the summer months. As you might expect, the number of violations has increased with the extra staffing. There were 83 violations in May, which is about a 30% increase over the preceding month. It's important to note that often issues can be resolved with a phone call, and those numbers may not be reflected in that number I just shared. Primary issues are landscaping, issues with meeting the ARB standards, rubbish and debris, which is limbs and pine cones and on in yards, unsightly conditions, typically things like bicycles in the front yard or towels over the railing and such as that. And then the last highlight category is maintenance, people with mold on their house and that kind of art needing to repaint. I would encourage anyone who's unfamiliar with the community standards to take a few minutes and familiarize yourself with them. I think Ryan and the other monitors many times hear from people that they're unaware of these standards, and they're available on the CSA website. Just take a few minutes and familiarize yourself with those. So if you have any questions on the standards after you get a chance to look at them, the staff is available to answer your questions. I think it's important also to remember the standards play a significant role in ensuring our community remains a premier community on the island. Carrie, you want to try again? No, I don't think that's going to work.
Gary, I emailed you and texted you the phone number if you want to try to call in from your cell phone. I emailed you the phone number and the meeting ID and passcode. Maybe that'll work better.
That's a great idea, Kathleen. Carrie, are you trying? You gonna call or you may be on mute. No,
No, he's not showing up as on mute.
Carrie, you're either on mute or we're not getting you. It shows mute now on your screen. Yeah. Carrie, can you call in on the phone number? Okay, I think we're gonna have to press on. Lori, can you tell us what's happening with the membership committee? Lori? Okay. Lori Allenbach?
It has
There you
been a roller coaster, as you pointed out in the beginning. I think it's good to note that most of the problems that have been caused have been cumulative over a couple of years of us gaining independence from the CSA process. And these are growing pains. I think if Carrie were on, he would tell you that he's worked very hard at identifying where the problems are within the database and making suggestions as to how we can resolve them. And I think that's an active process right now. I think by midsummer, we will have had this completely cleaned up. And at that point going forward, a process in place that will allow us to have a very accurate, independent database to be able to mail. And I would add my apologies to any members who received multiple reminders that their dues were not paid. I would also apologize to IMC for all of those phone calls, because that must have been difficult. Beyond that, I would just say that going forward into 2024, I would love to have more members on a committee that had ideas how to address membership better and increase our membership in 2024. It's not a huge commitment. It's mostly brainstorming ideas for membership. So if anyone is interested in the community, you can go on cpinespoa.com, and in the upper left-hand corner, you'll see a button to volunteer. And if you do that, I will call you and we can talk about ways that you might be involved. And I think that concludes my report.
Very good. Thank you. All right. I don't see a way to get back to Carrie, so we'll move ahead. Under unfinished business, we have the election of new officers, new board members. And what I'd like to do is just give you a summary today of the process that we go through every year. And so any member who hasn't been informed about how we work, hopefully this will be helpful to you. The election of new board members is assigned to the nominating committee, which includes 3 board members. And that's Keith Burns, who's the chairman, John Sherry, and myself. Carrie, are you on and is it working?
Can you now?
Nope.
No. I think we got the same problem. If you could call in on the phone line, that would be, there you are. You're on the phone. Okay.
Disconnect from the internet and just call in, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you log off of Zoom and just do the call? I really want to get your report in, so I'm trying to help you any way I can. Looks like we've still got you on there. There we go. Okay, I'm going to go back to my report on the election process, and we'll circle back to Carrie one more time before we conclude the meeting. As I was saying, election of new board members is assigned to the nominating committee, which has 3 board members, and that's Keith Burns, who's the chair, John Shurry, and myself. And while the work of identifying new board members goes on year-round, the first deadline in our process is August 1, when applications are due from prospective members. Applications can be found and completed on our website. The slate of nominated candidates is announced by the end of August. Nominations by petition, which is also allowed, really it's a collecting of 50 signatures from qualified property owners, are due by October the 1st, and that petition would be sent to the nominating committee. Next is a meet the candidates event that is conducted electronically in late October to give folks a chance to understand more about the people who are running for election. Ballots are then sent to members in early November and must be returned by November 30th. Our date of record is October the 1st, which means if you are a paid member on that date, you are eligible to vote. Election results are announced in December, in time to seat the elected candidates for a 3-year term that starts January 1 of 2024. Again, for anybody who's interested in serving, please be sure to get your application into us by August the 1st. Or if you'd like more information, contact any one of us on a nominating committee by using the info@cpinespoa.com address. We'll update everyone as this process continues. Ends my report on the election. And let's try Carrie one more time. I see on the screen, he's on the phone. Carrie, I'll turn it over to you.
Can you hear me all right?
Yes. There's an echo for some reason. Let me mute my
I've got my computer on mute, so I don't know whether there's an issue there or.
Can everybody mute? And Kathleen, are you all muted there as well? And hopefully that'll get the feedback out. Okay, Carrie, let's try again.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes, you sound wonderful. It's clear. Thank you so much for putting up with this.
Yeah, I apologize. So, I'm hearing an echo now too. So, this is going to be a little awkward. So I'll try and keep it brief. I'm working with Victoria and the folks at CSA to try and get our database in sync with what the CSA database is as far as the number of residents. Greg, I apologize. This is just too awkward. I just hear so much feedback.
Harry, I just put your other login in the waiting room. You shouldn't have any feedback now. You won't be able to hear yourself from your own computer.
Okay, do you want me to proceed then?
Yes.
Okay, so again, I apologize for the technical difficulties I'm experiencing this morning. I have been working with Victoria and folks at the CSA with regard to the process of getting data from CSA for our database. So for those that aren't familiar with how this process works, we get a monthly fee from CSA of resident names. We don't have much beyond the residents' names and address, their local address and mailing address. We don't have email numbers or phone numbers. What we have are just, again, their local address of the property they own and any additional mailing address if they're a non-resident. So one of the challenges that we faced, and I think Greg alluded to this earlier, was the fact that our database has not been kept up to date. So I'm working through the process of identifying what the steps are in order to do that, so that we don't have either multiple listings for someone. And also we're working to identify the primary owner of each account, because as everyone knows or should know, that each property has one vote when it comes to any type of voting that takes place. And so we're identifying the primary candidate or the primary owner, I should say, as well as any other interested parties that may be owning part interest in that property or sharing ownership of that property. So that's that part of it. And the other thing that I am looking at is, is it time to update our website? I think we've had a great first step in getting the website launched. We're looking at the potential of maybe looking at separate databases, if that would resolve the issue, or it may be a totally new website rebuild going forward. So, Greg, I apologize for the commotion, but that's a summary of my update.
Great, Carrie. Thank you. I needed to unmute myself, but thanks for all your work on this. It's really important. And I know the rest of the board appreciates your knowledge and expertise. I can speak for myself. It's certainly not my area of expertise. So we're glad you're here. We're glad you're on it, and it is important. So thanks for your report, and thanks for all you do.
Thank you much.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that concludes our updates and our unfinished business. And under new business, we have one topic, which is to increase the communication with the neighborhood POAs. And I'm just going to make a very brief statement about that. I think that the support that we got in gathering the signatures is evidence that when we work together, and we're obviously both on the same mission, which is to understand the property owners' needs, desires, what they see as problems or things that need to change or get fixed. We're all kind of on that same case. And so I think it makes sense for us to look for ways to both increase our communication and partnership on critical items. So we're going to engage in that conversation with the neighborhood POA presidents and see where we go. I think of it as kind of like a hub and spoke. The wheel doesn't work without a hub, and it sure won't work without spokes. You get them all together, and you've got a good invention. So hopefully you'll see some results in the future on that. But again, thanks to the property owner presidents and Margie for support on the petition. That concludes our agenda for this meeting. And we're going to adjourn and take a 5-minute break, and then come back and answer questions that we've gotten. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second, approved, excuse me. Seconded and approved. Yes. Thank you very much. We are adjourned, and we'll be back in 5 minutes. Thanks. Okay, we got everybody back. Kathleen, we don't have any more questions, do we? Just these two, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and respond. The first question is, can someone explain why CSA is so secretive about the board makeup of the Sea Pines Architecture Review Corporation finances, especially the annual amount collected and how the money is spent? The ARB and SPRC are funded by homeowners, yet we have no visibility to any of the inner workings. Probably very above board, but the secrecy sure makes one wonder. Well, I think it would be inappropriate for us to try and explain what happens with the Sea Pines ARC or the Architecture Review Board. So I guess my suggestion would be that if you have a question about how the organization is structured and how it works, that you forward your question directly to them, and I'm sure that you'll get a response. Second question is, can you tell me what the status of the South Beach pool is? No communication has been since it was approved. Again, we have no affiliation with the South Beach pool. Couldn't speak for them. They do have a website, and I would encourage you to go on the website. There's both an email address and a phone number, and you can contact them with any questions that you have. Those are the two questions that were received. There are no others. Anyone else have anything for the good of the organization to say before we adjourn completely? Hearing none. Oh, Lee, go ahead. You're on mute.
Just a questions. Once we have verified the signatures for all the petitions that have reached our goal, is the intent to make a formal announcement to the community that the petition process has reached its conclusion, and that we'll work with the resort to institute a referendum?
Yeah, and Lee, I think the only question I would have is, do we announce that we've made it, or do we hold off and meet with the resort and inform them that we made the goal and have a conversation and then make the announcement then? But I think we could do it either way for sure.
Yeah, I wasn't on a specific, just that the next steps will be that in some time in the near future, there'll be an announcement of what the next steps are toward a referendum.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a great achievement. Again, I'm excited because we're making history, and it's a first. And so it'd be nice to let everybody know the status as we go forward. All right. Anything else? If not, thank you all very much for your time, energy, and presentations. Thanks very much. Bye.
Bye-bye.